Crosspoint 7 floated in the darkness between stars, a massive station where different species met to trade, talk, and sometimes argue. The station had been built centuries ago by the Valrathi Empire, back when humans were still figuring out how to leave their own solar system. Now, humans had spread across dozens of worlds, and the Valrathi had learned to share space with these loud, curious newcomers. Commander Tae-Yang stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately felt the weight difference. Crosspoint 7 had gravity slightly lighter than Earth standard, which made his uniform feel loose on his shoulders. He carried a small bag and a datapad containing his orders. Routine diplomatic assignment, they said. Show up, smile, don't start any wars. Easy enough. The station buzzed with activity. Tae-Yang walked past merchants selling glowing fruits that changed color when touched, past engineers working on atmospheric processors, past a group of six-legged creche clicking at each other in their insect language. He had been in space for 5 years now, and he still found himself staring sometimes. Earth had been so quiet compared to this. His quarters were small but clean. A bed, a desk, a window showing the stars. He dropped his bag and checked the schedule. Tonight was a cultural exchange event in the main hall. Attendance required for all diplomatic personnel. Tae-Yang sighed. He preferred actual work to parties, but orders were orders. The main hall had been decorated with symbols from a dozen different species. Human flags hung next to Valrathi crystal banners. Tables offered food from different worlds. Most of it safe for human consumption, some of it definitely not. Tae-Yang grabbed something that looked like grilled meat and found a spot near the wall where he could watch without being too obvious. That was when he saw her. She stood near the center of the room, surrounded by other Valrathi officers. Her skin had the distinctive crystalline patterns of her species, geometric designs that caught the light and threw it back in colors that shifted between blue and purple. Valrathi were taller than humans on average, and she was tall even for her kind. She wore a military uniform that marked her as a commander, same rank as him. Her bioluminescent markings flickered slightly as she talked, a sign of engagement in conversation. Tae-Yang watched her for a while, not meaning anything by it, just curious. The Valrathi were fascinating to him. Their culture was old, structured, based on genetic lineages that went back thousands of years. Everything about them screamed order and tradition. Humans were chaos by comparison, barely 200 years into space travel, and already making noise everywhere they went. Someone bumped into him, spilling his drink. Tae-Yang turned to apologize and found himself face to face with a Valrathi junior officer who looked mortified. The officer stammered an apology in broken standard, the common language most species used. Tae-Yang waved it off, smiling. No harm done. The commotion caught the attention of the tall Valrathi woman. She walked over, her officers following like an honor guard. Up close, she was even more striking. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, with 3 eyelids that blinked in sequence. Her face was angular, beautiful in a way that was definitely not human, but still somehow attractive. "Is there a problem here?" she asked. Her standard was perfect, barely accented. "No problem," Tae-Yang said. "Just an accident." She studied him for a moment, her bioluminescent markings pulsing slowly. "You are the new human liaison?" "Commander Tae-Yang, Terran Defense Corps." "Commander Kirish, Valrathi Imperial Navy." She did not offer her hand. Valrathi did not shake hands. Instead, she placed her palm briefly over her heart, a gesture of respectful greeting. Tae-Yang mimicked it. They talked. Somehow, despite the noise and the crowd, they ended up in a corner with drinks, discussing military tactics. Kirish was sharp, her mind quick. She challenged his assumptions about fleet formations. He pointed out flaws in traditional Valrathi defensive doctrine. It was the kind of conversation that made hours feel like minutes. Other people came and went. The party continued around them. At some point, someone brought out drinks that were stronger than the first round. Tae-young felt the alcohol warming his blood. Kirish's markings glowed brighter, a sign that she was relaxed, maybe a little drunk. "Your species is strange," she said, not unkindly. "You move fast. You take risks. My people study problems for years before acting. Humans just do things. Sometimes thinking too much stops you from moving at all," Tae-young said. She tilted her head, considering this. "Perhaps?" The party wound down. People left in groups, heading back to quarters or to other parts of the station. Tae-young found himself walking Kirish back toward the Varathi section. They were still talking, though he could not remember later what they talked about. Something about old wars, about what it meant to be a soldier, about loneliness in space. They stopped outside her quarters. She looked at him with those large eyes, 3 eyelids blinking slowly. "Would you like to come inside?" Tae-young knew he should say no. There were protocols, regulations about fraternization between species. But the alcohol was warm in his system, and she was interesting, and he was tired of following every rule perfectly. "Yes," he said. Inside, her quarters were neat and organized, very Velrathi. They talked more. They shared another drink. And then, somehow, talking was not enough. The details were blurry later, lost in alcohol and the strangeness of the moment. Tae-young knew that cross-species intimacy happened sometimes. Humans were curious like that, and some other species were too. It was not forbidden, just unusual. And it was safe. Everyone knew it was safe. Different species could not reproduce together. Biology did not work that way. The galactic medical community had established this as basic fact centuries ago. So neither of them worried. Neither of them thought there would be consequences. Tae-young left early the next morning, before Kirish woke up. He felt awkward, embarrassed in the way humans did, after drunken mistakes. He figured they would avoid each other for the rest of his posting. That the night would become a strange memory neither of them mentioned. He was wrong. 3 weeks later, Tae-young was reviewing supply reports when his communicator buzzed with an urgent summons. "Medical Bay, immediately." The message was marked Priority 1, which meant drop everything and run. He arrived at the medical bay out of breath. The doors slid open to reveal a scene of controlled chaos. Velrathi medical staff moved between stations, their markings flickering with what looked like agitation. Human medical personnel stood to one side, looking confused and worried. In the center of it all stood Kira SSH. She turned when he entered, and her expression made his blood freeze. Her markings were bright red, a color he had never seen on a Velrathi before. Her hands were clenched into fists. She looked at him with something beyond anger, beyond rage. She looked at him like he had destroyed her entire world. "You," she said, her voice low and dangerous. "What did you do to me?" Behind her, a Velrathi doctor stepped forward, datapad in hand. "Commander Tae-young, we have a situation. Commander Kirish is pregnant. With your child." The words did not make sense. Tae-young heard them, but his brain refused to process them. Pregnant. Impossible. Cross-species reproduction did not happen. Could not happen. Every scientific text, every medical database said so. "That's not possible," he said stupidly. Kirish moved so fast he barely saw her. One moment she was across the room. The next her hand was around his throat, slamming him against the wall. She was stronger than him. Velrathi always were. Her face was centimeters from his, her breath hot against his skin. "Not possible?" She hissed. "Then explain this. Explain why I am carrying your hybrid abomination inside me. Explain why my life is over. Explain." Medical staff pulled her back, but not before Taeyang saw tears in her eyes. Not sadness, pure rage. The conference room felt too small for the tension it held. Taeyang sat on one side of the table, flanked by his commanding officer and a human lawyer who had arrived on the morning transport. Across from him sat Kirish, rigid and silent, her crystalline skin patterns darker than usual. Her Velarathi superiors filled the chairs beside her. Their markings flickering in patterns that Taeyang had learned meant extreme displeasure. Between them, at the head of the table, sat Dr. Hana. She had arrived 2 days after the revelation, a xenobiologist specializing in reproductive systems. Her credentials were impressive, but more than that, she carried classified files that made everyone in the room nervous. The files sat on the table now, sealed in a security case that required 3 different authorization codes to open. "Let us be clear about one thing," said Admiral Venrax, the senior Velrathi officer. "This is not a diplomatic incident. This is a biological attack on one of our officers. We demand immediate termination of the pregnancy and extradition of Commander Taeyang to face trial. With respect." "Admiral," the human lawyer said, "Commander Taeyang had no knowledge that this was possible. He acted in good faith based on established scientific consensus. Ignorance is not innocence." Dr. Hannah cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should start with what we know, rather than what we assume. May I present my findings?" The Velrathi admiral gestured curtly. Hannah opened the security case and pulled out a datapad. She activated the holographic display, and images filled the air above the table. Genetic sequences, medical scans, historical records. "This is not the first time this has happened," Hannah said quietly. The room went silent. Kirish looked up sharply, her 3 eyelids blinking in rapid sequence. Taeyang felt his stomach drop. Hannah continued. 17 years ago, a human merchant named Ji Wu had a relationship with a Kresh female on Frontier Station 9. She became pregnant. The child survived. 8 years ago, a botanist named Myray entered into a sanctioned partnership with a Sulvian researcher. She gave birth to a hybrid son. There have been 4 other confirmed cases, all classified, all suppressed by human authorities. "You knew," Kirish said, her voice deadly quiet. "Your people knew this could happen." "We suspected," Hannah admitted, "but we did not know the mechanism. We still do not fully. Human genetic material appears to have an adaptive quality that we cannot explain. It interfaces with other species' reproductive systems in ways that should be impossible according to our understanding of biology." She changed the display, showing complex molecular structures. Human DNA contains certain sequences that appear to be dormant in normal reproduction. But when exposed to foreign genetic material, these sequences activate. They essentially rewrite the compatibility protocols on a cellular level. We think it might be related to Earth's evolutionary history. Our planet had an unusual amount of horizontal gene transfer, viral integration, genetic borrowing between unrelated species. Our DNA is, for lack of a better word, promiscuous. So every human is a potential biological weapon, Admiral Venrax said. That is not fair. Taeyang spoke for the first time in an hour. We did not design this. We did not choose it, but you hid it. Hannah nodded slowly. Yes, we hid it, because we knew how the galaxy would react. And we were right to be afraid, were we not? Kirish slammed her hand on the table, the crystal patterns on her skin flaring bright red. Do not make this about human fear. I am the one whose life has been destroyed. In my culture, pregnancy outside of sanctioned genetic pairing is a profound dishonor. My family has already disowned me. My military career is finished. And you speak of your fear? Kirish, Taeyang said, but she cut him off. Do not say my name. Do not look at me. You have taken everything." She stood abruptly and left the room. Her Velrathi colleagues followed after a moment, leaving only Admiral Venrax, who stared at the humans with cold eyes. "This matter is not over," he said. "The Velrathi Empire will demand answers from Earth. We will demand safeguards. And we will demand justice for Commander Kira's SH." He left. The door closed with a hiss. Tae-Young put his head in his hands. "I need to talk to her," he said. "That would not be wise," his commanding officer said. "I do not care. This is my responsibility, too." Dr. Hannah gathered her files. "Actually, it might help. I need to conduct more examinations, and she has been refusing to cooperate. If you can convince her to work with me, we might learn enough to prevent this from happening again." "And the pregnancy?" Tae-Young asked. "What happens to it?" "That is your choice," Hannah said firmly. "Whatever else happens, that decision belongs to her alone." Tae-Young spent 2 days trying to reach Kirish. She ignored his messages, refused his requests for meetings. Finally, he simply waited outside the Velrathi quarters until she had to leave for a scheduled duty shift. She saw him standing there, and her markings flared red again. "Move," she said. "I need to talk to you." "There is nothing to say, please?" Something in his voice made her pause. Maybe it was the desperation. Maybe she was just tired. She looked at him for a long moment, then gestured curtly for him to follow. They walked to an observation deck, a quiet space with windows showing the stars. No one else was there. They stood in silence for a while. Finally, Tae-Young spoke. "I am sorry. I know that does not fix anything, but I am sorry. Your apology means nothing. I know. But it is all I have." Kirish wrapped her arms around herself, a surprisingly human gesture. "Do you know what it means? To be dishonored in Velrathi culture? My family has removed my name from the genealogical records. As far as they are concerned, I no longer exist. Thousands of years of lineage, and I have ended it. That is not fair to you. Fair?" She laughed bitterly. "Nothing about this is fair. I am carrying a hybrid creature that should not exist. My body is changing in ways I do not understand. And everyone looks at me like I am contaminated. You are not contaminated. What would you know about it?" She turned to face him, her large eyes reflecting the starlight. "You will return to Earth eventually. Your career might suffer, but you will recover. Humans do not care about genetic purity the way we do. But me? I have nowhere to go. I cannot return home. I cannot continue in the military. I am nothing now. You are still you," Tae-Young said. "Still a commander. Still brilliant at tactics. Still strong. A pregnancy does not erase who you are. It does in my world." They stood in silence again. Tae-Young wanted to reach out, to offer comfort, but he knew she would not accept it. Finally, he spoke the question that had been haunting him. "What will you do?" Kirish did not answer immediately. When she did, her voice was tired. "I do not know. The doctors say termination is possible, but difficult. The fetus is developing rapidly, adapting to my biology. Waiting much longer would be dangerous. But double quotes. But I am afraid," she admitted quietly. "Afraid of the procedure. Afraid of what comes after. Afraid that no matter what I choose, I will regret it forever." Before Tae-Young could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights began flashing. A voice came over the speakers, speaking in Standard and several other languages. "Security alert. Hostile forces have boarded the station. All personnel moved to designated safe zones." Tae-Young's training kicked in immediately. He grabbed Kirashi's arm, pulling her away from the windows. "We need to move now." They ran through corridors, following the flow of other people toward the secure areas. Behind them, Taeyang heard weapons fire. Someone screamed. He looked back and saw figures in unmarked armor, carrying energy weapons. Faster, he urged. They turned a corner and found their path blocked. 3 armored figures stood there, weapons raised. One of them spoke, a voice distorted by a mask. "Commander Kirish, you are contaminated. We are here to cleanse you." Taeyang stepped in front of her without thinking. "You will have to go through me. That can be arranged, human." The weapon came up, aimed at his chest. Taeyang tensed, preparing to dodge, knowing he was probably too slow. Then Kirish moved. She pushed past him, her Velrathi strength and speed far superior to his human limitations. She struck the lead attacker with a blow that sent them flying backward. The other 2 opened fire, but she was already moving, faster than Taeyang could follow. He jumped into the fight, grabbing a weapon from one of the fallen attackers. Together, they fought. It was chaotic, desperate, nothing like training exercises. Taeyang took a hit to his shoulder that burned through his uniform and seared his skin. He kept fighting. When it was over, all 3 attackers lay unconscious on the deck. Kirish stood over them, breathing hard, her markings blazing bright orange. Then she looked down at herself, at her hands, checking for injuries. "Are you hurt?" Taeyang asked, clutching his burned shoulder. "No, the child is safe." She paused, seeming to realize what she had just said. "I called it a child. Kirazessa, you saved me. Or tried to. You were willing to die." "Of course I was." She looked at him with an expression he could not read. "Why?" "Because this is my responsibility too. Because you did not deserve what happened to you. Because ... He stopped, not sure how to finish. Station security arrived, taking the attackers into custody. Medical personnel rushed to Taeyang, treating his shoulder. Through it all, Kirish stood watching, her hand resting unconsciously on her abdomen, where new life grew, impossible and undeniable. Recovery took 3 days. Taeyang lay in the medical bay with his shoulder bandaged, the burn healing slowly under regenerative treatment. In the bed next to his, separated by a thin curtain, Kirish rested. The doctors had insisted she stay for observation after the attack. Worried about stress on the pregnancy at first, they did not talk. But the silence between them had changed somehow. It was less hostile now, more uncertain. On the 2nd day, Kirish pulled back the curtain between their beds. "Your shoulder," she said. "How bad is it?" "I will live. The doctors say full recovery in a week." "Good." She paused and continued. "I did not thank you for trying to protect me." "You do not need to thank me. You saved us both. I am a trained warrior. You are a commander, not a frontline soldier. You should have run. I could not leave you." She studied him with those large eyes. "Why not? After everything, why not save yourself?" Taeyang thought about how to answer. "Because leaving you would have been the worst thing I could do. I already hurt you once, through ignorance. I was not going to hurt you again through cowardice." Kirish was quiet for a long moment. Then she said something he did not expect. "Tell me about Earth, about human families." So he did. He told her about his childhood in a coastal city, about parents who worked long hours but always made time for dinner together. He told her about his sister, who became a teacher, about holiday gatherings with cousins and grandparents. He explained how human families were not based on genetic lineages like Velrathi ones, how humans adopted children from other families, how they built connections through choice rather than just blood. "It sounds chaotic," Kirish said. "It is, but it works for us. My family," she said slowly, "has records going back 4,000 years. Every birth is planned, matched for genetic compatibility. We know our ancestors' names, their accomplishments. We are born into a role, a place in the lineage. And I have broken all of that. Maybe you have started something new instead." She laughed, but it was not bitter this time. Just tired. You humans always think that way. Breaking things and calling it progress. Dr. Hana arrived that afternoon with test results. She pulled a chair between their beds and activated her datapad. "I have good news and complicated news. The good news is that both of you are healthy. The pregnancy is progressing normally, or as normally as an unprecedented situation can progress. And the complicated news?" Kirish asked. "The fetus is developing in ways we have never seen. It has Velrathi crystalline neural structures, but with human neuroplasticity. It has your cardiovascular system, Kira's SH, but with adaptations that suggest it can process oxygen more efficiently than either pure Velrathi or pure humans. And it is producing unique compounds that we think might have medical applications." "Medical applications?" Taeyang sat up despite the pain in his shoulder. Hana nodded. "The hybrid biology is creating neurochemical proteins that could potentially treat degenerative neural diseases in both species. We are years away from understanding it fully, but the initial data is remarkable." "So my child is a research subject now?" Kirish's markings flared orange, a warning sign. "No," Hannah said firmly. "Your child is a child. But the biology is unprecedented, and understanding it could help many people. That said, this is your choice. You can refuse all testing beyond basic health monitoring." Kirish leaned back against her pillows, one hand resting on her abdomen. The pregnancy was starting to show now, a slight curve that her uniform could no longer completely hide. "What would happen if I terminated the pregnancy now?" Hannah did not flinch from the question. "At this stage, it would require invasive surgery. The fetus has integrated deeply with your biology. Removal would be dangerous and would likely damage your reproductive system permanently. You would probably never be able to carry a child again, even a pure Velrathi child." The room went silent. Taeyang saw Kirish's markings cycle through colors, blue to purple to orange, a cascade of emotions she could not control. "So I have no real choice," she said finally. "You have a choice," Hana corrected gently. "But all choices have consequences." That has always been true. After Hana left, Taeyang and Kirish sat in silence for a while. Finally, he spoke. "What do you want to do?" "I do not know," she admitted. "Part of me still wants to erase this whole situation. Go back to before. But I cannot, can I? And after the attack, when those people called me contaminated and wanted to kill me, I realized something. I was protecting this." She touched her abdomen. "My body did it without thinking. I chose to defend it." "That sounds like you have already decided. Maybe. Or maybe I am just afraid of surgery." She looked at him. "What do you want?" Taeyang considered the question carefully. "I want you to be safe and healthy. I want you to make the choice that is right for you. But if you ask me personally, if I have any hope in this situation, it is that maybe something good can come from something that started terribly. Maybe this child could be important, not just as a medical curiosity, but as proof that different species can create life together. Maybe that matters. You think one child can change how species see each other? I think change has to start somewhere." Kirish shook her head, but she was almost smiling. "You humans and your optimism. It is exhausting, sorry. Do not apologize. It is not entirely unwelcome." Over the next week, they were visited by officials from both governments. The Velrathi Empire wanted the situation resolved quietly. Earth's government wanted to avoid a diplomatic incident. Both sides applied pressure, offering deals and making threats. Through it all, Kirish remained silent, refusing to commit to any decision. Then the news leaked. Someone on the station, maybe a medical staff member or a politician's aide, sold the story to a galactic news network. Within hours, every species in the known galaxy knew about the hybrid pregnancy. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Conservative factions across multiple civilizations issued statements of condemnation. A group calling itself the Genetic Purity Front emerged, claiming that humans were a biological threat to galactic stability. Protests erupted on several worlds. 3 human embassies reported attacks. The Galactic Assembly, called an emergency session, got Taeyang, watched the news feeds in horror. This is getting out of control. Kirish watched too, her expression unreadable. My people are calling for my execution. They say I am a traitor to my species for not immediately terminating the pregnancy. They cannot make you do anything. Can they not? She turned to him. My entire life, I have served the Empire. I have followed every law, upheld every tradition. And now they say I am the enemy. What do I have left? Before he could answer, Admiral Venrax arrived with a security detail. His markings were dark red, almost black. Commander Kirish, the Empire has issued a recall order. You are to return to the homeworld immediately for medical intervention. No, Kirish said. This is not a request. I said no. She stood, facing the Admiral. She was taller than him, and her markings blazed bright orange. I am an officer of the Imperial Navy. I have served with honor for 15 years. I have earned the right to make decisions about my own body. You have earned nothing but disgrace, the Admiral said coldly. You are contaminated. You are a biological hazard. And you will comply with orders, or you will be declared an enemy of the state. Then declare me an enemy. The room went silent. Taeyang stood as well, despite his still healing shoulder. She is under diplomatic protection. You cannot force her to leave the station. Human law does not apply here. Actually, said a new voice from the doorway, it does. A woman entered, wearing the insignia of Earth's diplomatic corps. She was older, with gray hair and sharp eyes. I am Ambassador Sora. As of 1 hour ago, Commander Kirish has requested political asylum from Earth. Her request has been granted. She is now under the protection of human law and the Galactic Refugee Accords. Admiral Venrax looked like he might explode. This is an outrage. The Empire will not stand for this. The Empire will have to, Sora said calmly. Unless you want to violate interstellar law in front of the entire galaxy. The Admiral left, his security detail following. The door closed. Kirish slowly sat back down, looking dazed. I just destroyed any chance of ever going home. Home did not want you anymore, Sora said, not unkindly. But we will provide a new one if you wish it. Why? Kirish asked. Why help me? Sora smiled slightly. Because it is the right thing to do. And because you have something the galaxy needs to see. You have the courage to choose your own path. That night, Kirish made her choice. She called a press conference, something unheard of for a Velrathi officer. News drones from a dozen networks crowded into the station's main hall. Taeyang stood to the side, watching as she walked to the podium. Her markings were steady, a calm blue. She spoke in clear standard, her voice carrying across the room and across the galaxy. I am Commander Kirish of the Velrathi Imperial Navy. I am pregnant with a hybrid child. The father is Commander Taeyang of Earth. This situation was not planned. It was not desired by either of us. But it is real, and it is mine to decide. She paused, looking directly into the cameras. I have been told that I am contaminated. I have been told that I am a traitor. I have been told to terminate this pregnancy, to preserve genetic purity and cultural honor. But I have decided that my body belongs to me, not to my government, not to tradition, and not to fear. I will carry this pregnancy to term, not because I have forgiven everything, not because I am not still angry about what happened, but because I refuse to let others control my choices. If that makes me an enemy of my people, then I will be an enemy who stands by her principles. The room erupted in questions, but Kirish simply walked away from the podium. She walked directly to Taeyang, and for the first time since the Medical Bay revelation, she looked at him without hatred. I am still angry with you, she said. I know, but we are bound together now, whether we like it or not. I know that too. So we face this together, not as lovers, not even as friends yet, but as two people who created something impossible and now must deal with the consequences. Taeyang nodded. Together then. Outside, the galaxy watched and argued and prepared for whatever came next. The galaxy did not react well to Kirish's announcement. Within a week, 3 human colonies reported economic sanctions from trading partners. The Velrathi Empire recalled its ambassadors from Earth. A dozen species issued formal complaints to the Galactic Assembly. But something unexpected happened. 2. Support came from strange places. A group of young Velrathi scientists published an open letter defending Kirish's right to choose. A coalition of civil rights organizations from 7 different species condemned the Empire's treatment of her. On social networks that connected the galaxy, hashtags appeared in multiple languages, all saying variations of the same thing. Her body, her choice. Taeyang watched the news feeds with a mixture of hope and dread. He had been transferred to quarters near Kirish's, officially for security reasons, but really because the human government wanted them together where they could be protected. They ate meals together now, awkward at first, but slowly becoming easier. She taught him words in her language. He showed her human music, which she found chaotic but interesting. Your people are strange, she said one evening, listening to a classical symphony. This music has no clear pattern, no geometric logic, but it moves something inside me. That is the point, Taeyang said. Not everything needs logic. My people would disagree. Your people disowned you. Maybe their logic is not as perfect as they think. She looked at him sharply, but then her markings flickered to a lighter blue, almost like amusement. You are learning to be impolite. This is progress. Dr. Hana visited regularly to monitor the pregnancy. Each time she came with new discoveries. The fetus was growing faster than expected. Its neural development was remarkable. The unique proteins it produced were being studied by research teams on 3 different worlds. I have a proposal, Hannah said during one visit. There is a facility on Earth, a research hospital that specializes in unusual cases. They have offered to provide care for the remainder of your pregnancy and the birth. State-of-the-art equipment, the best doctors in human space. Why? Kirish asked suspiciously. Because they want to help. And yes, because they want to study this situation. But mostly because Earth feels responsible. We hid information that could have prevented this. We owe you the best care we can provide. Kirish looked at Taeyang. What do you think? I think it is safer than staying on the station. The genetic purity front has made threats. Station security is good, but Earth is better protected. And you would come with me? If you want me to. She considered this for a long moment. Yes, I think I do. The journey to Earth took 2 weeks on a fast diplomatic transport. Kirish spent most of the trip looking out the viewports at the passing stars. Taeyang tried to prepare her for Earth, for the crowds and noise and chaos of human civilization. It is not like the Velrathi homeworld, he warned. We are not organized. Cities are messy. People are loud. I understand. I am prepared. She was not prepared. When they landed at the spaceport in Geneva, the crowd was enormous. Thousands of people had gathered, some protesting, some showing support. Security had to clear a path through the mass of bodies. Kirish gripped Tae-Yang's arm, her markings flickering rapidly through colors. "There are so many," she said. "Welcome to Earth." The research hospital was quieter, thankfully. Dr. Hana had arranged for a private wing where Kirish could stay without constant interruption. The medical team was professional and respectful, running tests and providing care without making her feel like a specimen. But the pregnancy was getting difficult. Kirish tired easily now. Her body was adapting to support the hybrid biology, but the strain showed. Sometimes she woke in the night with pain, and the doctors could only offer comfort and monitoring. Human painkillers did not work well on the Velrathi physiology, and Velrathi medicine could potentially harm the fetus. Tae-Yang stayed close, even though his official duties had ended. He had been offered a transfer to a new posting, a promotion, even a way to move past this situation with his career intact. He refused. When his commanding officer asked why, he could not fully explain. Responsibility, yes. Guilt, certainly. But also something else. He had come to respect Kirish, her strength, her refusal to surrender to others' expectations. "You should take the promotion," she told him one night when the pain was bad. "This is not your burden alone." "It is our burden," he said. "I am staying." "Why? You could rebuild your life. Find a human woman. Have normal children." "I do not want normal. I want to see this through." She looked at him with those large eyes, 3 eyelids blinking slowly. "You confuse me, Tae-Yang. Sometimes I still hate you for what happened, but sometimes I am grateful you stayed. Both can be true at the same time." That is a very human philosophy. The situation outside the hospital grew worse. The Genetic Purity Front staged a demonstration that turned violent, with 20 people injured before security forces dispersed the crowd. 3 more human colonies were hit with sanctions. The Galactic Assembly was paralyzed by argument, unable to agree on any official position about humans or hybrid births. Then Ambassador Sora arranged something unexpected. A hearing at the Galactic Assembly, broadcast across all member species. She wanted to present evidence about human genetic compatibility and argue for new laws to protect hybrid children and their parents. It was risky. If it went badly, humans could be officially designated as a biological hazard, quarantined to their own space. "Will you testify?" Sora asked Kirish. "Me? I am not a scientist or a diplomat." "No, but you are living this. Your testimony would matter." Kirish was 7 months pregnant now. The pregnancy showed clearly, her uniform replaced by loose clothing that accommodated her changing body. She was tired, in pain much of the time, and still processing her anger at the situation. But she agreed. The hearing took place via holographic link. The assembly chamber was vast, filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Kirish appeared as a projection, larger than life, her crystalline skin catching the light. She spoke clearly and without notes. She told her story, from the night with Tae-Yang through the revelation, the attack, the choice to continue the pregnancy. She described the pain and the fear and the anger. She did not soften anything. "I did not choose this situation," she said, "but I chose how to respond to it. And I ask you, what right does anyone have to tell me otherwise? What right does any government, any tradition, any fear have to control my body?" A representative from a conservative species interrupted. "But the genetic threat. If humans can breed with any species, what stops them from spreading uncontrolled?" "The same thing that stops any species," Kirish replied. "Consent, choice, law. Do you think humans are animals with no self-control? Do you think the rest of us are helpless? I made a choice to be with Tae-Yang. That choice had unexpected consequences, but it was still my choice. Ambassador Sora presented Dr. Hannah's research, showing the 17 documented cases of human hybrid births over 30 years. That is 17 cases across billions of humans and trillions of interactions with other species. This is not an epidemic. This is a rare occurrence that we need to understand, not fear. The hearing lasted 6 hours. Questions came from all sides. Some species showed support. Others remained hostile. But by the end, something had shifted. The Assembly agreed to form a commission to study the issue rather than immediately declaring sanctions. It was not victory, but it was not defeat either. Kirish returned to her hospital room exhausted. Tae-Young helped her into bed, bringing water and adjusting the lights to the low level she preferred. "You were amazing," he said. "I was terrified. You did not show it." She smiled slightly, her markings a soft purple. "I learned something from watching humans. You fake confidence until it becomes real." That night, Kirish woke suddenly. Pain, sharp and intense. She called for Tae-Yang, who was sleeping in the next room. He came running, saw her face, and immediately hit the emergency alert dot. The medical team arrived in minutes. Dr. Hannah ran scans, her expression grave. "The baby is in distress. The hybrid biology is putting too much strain on your system. We need to deliver now. Now. But it is too early. Waiting could kill you both." They rushed Kirish to surgery. Tae-Yang tried to follow, but a nurse stopped him. "You cannot come in. Too much risk of contamination during surgery." He stood outside the surgical suite, watching through the window. He could see the medical team working, could see the instruments and the lights, but could not hear what was happening. Time stretched. Minutes felt like hours. Dr. Hannah came out after 90 minutes, still wearing her surgical gear. Her expression was unreadable. "Tae-Yang," she said, "we had to make a choice. The strain was killing Kirish. We could save her, or we could try to save the baby, but probably not both." His heart stopped. "And Kirish told us to save her, not the baby. But we tried anyway. We had to use experimental techniques, combined human and Velrathi medical approaches. It was close. Are they alive?" Dr. Hannah smiled, tired but genuine. "They are both alive. Mother and daughter. Come see." She led him into the recovery room. Kirish lay unconscious, her crystalline skin pale, but her vital signs steady. And in a medical cradle beside her was the baby. She was tiny, smaller than a human newborn, but larger than Velrathi infants usually were. Her skin had crystalline patterns like her mother's geometric designs in shades of blue and silver. But her eyes, when they opened, were distinctly human in shape, if not in size. She had her mother's 3 eyelids and her father's darker coloring around them. She moved her small hands, and Tae-Yang saw strength there, more than a newborn should have. "Can I hold her?" he asked. "Of course. You are her father." Tae-Yang picked up his daughter carefully, afraid of breaking her. She weighed almost nothing, but she gripped his finger when he offered it, with surprising strength. Her markings flickered, a soft blue that seemed to respond to his presence. "Hello," he whispered. "Hello, little one." Kirish woke an hour later. The first thing she did was look for the baby. Tae-Yang brought her over, placing her carefully in Kirish's arms. For a long moment, she just stared, and tears ran down her crystalline cheeks, catching the light. "She is beautiful," Kirish said. "I did not think she would be beautiful." "She is perfect," Tae-Yang agreed. "What should we name her?" They had not discussed this before, both afraid to plan too much, to hope too much. Now, looking at the tiny life they had created, Tae-Yang thought carefully. "What about Nari?" "It means lily in my language. Something that grows in difficult places and blooms beautifully." Kirish repeated the name, testing how it sounded. Her markings brightened to a warm purple. "Nari. Yes, that is right." They sat, together, both looking at their impossible daughter, while outside the galaxy continued to argue about what she meant. 3 months after Nari's birth, Kirish stood in the hospital garden, watching her daughter sleep in a carrier on her chest. The baby made small sounds, her markings flickering through colors as she dreamed. Kirish still found herself surprised every time she looked at Nari. Surprised that she existed. Surprised that Kirish loved her so completely. The rage had not disappeared entirely. Some mornings she woke angry about everything that had been taken from her. Her family, her career, her place in Velrathi society. But the rage had changed. It was no longer directed at Taeyang or even at Nari. It had become something focused, a determination that her daughter would grow up in a galaxy that accepted her. Taeyang approached across the garden, carrying 2 cups of tea. He had learned to make it the way Kirish liked, a Velrathi blend that human traders brought to Earth. Small gestures like this had become routine between them. They were not in love, not exactly, but they had built something like partnership, born from shared responsibility and growing respect. "The news feeds are showing the assembly vote," he said, offering her a cup. They had been waiting for this. After months of debate, the Galactic Assembly was voting on new laws regarding interspecies relationships and hybrid offspring. The proposal included protections for hybrid children, guarantees of citizenship rights, and guidelines for genetic research. It also included restrictions on human travel to certain conservative species worlds, a compromise that human diplomats had accepted. Kirish pulled out her datapad, pulling up the live feed. Representatives cast their votes one by one, their decisions displayed in columns of light. Green for yes, red for no, yellow for abstain. The count was close, far too close. But as the final votes came in, green edged ahead. The law passed by a margin of 12 votes. Kirish closed her eyes, relief washing over her. She will have rights. Nari will have protection under galactic law. Not everywhere, Taeyang cautioned. Some species still refuse to recognize the laws, but most will. It is a start. They sat on a bench, Nari sleeping between them. After a while, Taeyang spoke. "I received an assignment offer. A joint human Velrathi research facility. They want to study human genetic compatibility, find ways to prevent accidental pregnancies in the future. They want me there as a liaison and cultural advisor. Will you take it?" "I do not know." It would mean leaving Earth, and it would mean not seeing Nari every day. Kirish looked at him. Over the months, she had learned to read his human expressions. He was torn, she could see that, wanting to move forward with his life, but not wanting to abandon his daughter. "We could both go," she said slowly. "The research would benefit from my perspective too. And Nari should grow up around both cultures, not just one. Are you sure? Earth has been safe for you. Safe but isolated. I want Nari to know the galaxy, even the parts that fear her. She needs to be strong, and strength comes from facing difficulties, not hiding from them." They moved to the research facility 6 months later. It was built on a neutral station, larger than Crosspoint 7, designed for long-term scientific collaboration. Humans and Velrathi worked side by side, along with researchers from a dozen other species. The goal was ambitious: understand human genetic compatibility and develop reliable methods to prevent unwanted hybrid pregnancies. Dr. Hana led the research team. She had become famous across the galaxy, the scientist who first documented human hybrid children. Her work was controversial, celebrated by some as groundbreaking and condemned by others as encouraging genetic chaos. She handled both reactions with calm professionalism. Kirish worked as a consultant, providing insights into Velrathi biology and culture. It was strange at first, working with her own species again. Many Velrathi researchers treated her coldly, still viewing her as dishonored. But others, especially. Younger scientists treated her with respect and curiosity. One young researcher named Doyan even asked for her autograph, saying she was a hero to progressive Velrothi. Taeyang taught combat and tactics to mixed species security teams, adapting both human and Velrothi strategies. He found he enjoyed teaching more than command, the satisfaction of helping others learn. But the most important work was raising Nari. She grew quickly, her hybrid biology developing faster than pure human or pure Velrothi children. By her first birthday, she was walking and speaking simple words in both languages. She understood both Standard and Velrothi, switching between them naturally. Her markings responded to her emotions like a Velrothi's, but her facial expressions were human. She was strong, fast, curious about everything. She was also unique in ways the medical team was still discovering. Her immune system was incredibly robust, able to fight off infections that would sicken either humans or Velrothi. Her brain showed unusual plasticity, learning new concepts with remarkable speed. And she had an intuitive understanding of both cultures, as if she instinctively knew how to be Velrothi with her mother and human with her father. Other hybrid children began appearing. Not many, but enough to notice. A human creche child born on a frontier colony. A human Nexian daughter on a trading station. Each case was different. Each family struggled with their own challenges, but they were no longer alone. Support networks formed. Medical knowledge improved. Slowly, the galaxy adjusted to this new reality. The genetic purity front did not disappear, but it fragmented. Some members became violent, carrying out attacks on mixed species families. Station security arrested them. Other members simply faded away, unable to maintain their rage against living, breathing children who are just trying to exist. When Nari was 2 years old, something unexpected happened. A message arrived from the Velrothi homeworld. It was addressed to Kirish, sent by her younger sister Bora. Kirish stared at the message notification for a long time before opening it. Taeyang stood beside her, offering silent support. Finally, she activated it. Bora's hologram appeared, her markings flickering nervously. Sister, I do not know if you will see this. I do not know if you will want to hear from me. I did not speak for you when the family disowned you, and I am ashamed of that silence. But things are changing here. There is a movement, mostly among the young, questioning the old honor codes. We have been watching you, watching how you raised your daughter with dignity, watching how you turned shame into strength. And some of us think perhaps the shame belonged to us, not you. I cannot give you back what was taken. The family will not reverse the dishonor declaration. But I wanted you to know that you are not forgotten, and that some of us think you are right. The message ended. Kirish stood silent for a long moment, her markings cycling through colors. Then she picked up Nari, holding her close. Your aunt sent a message, she told the little girl. Someday, maybe you will meet her. More messages came over the following months. Not from her parents, who remained rigid in their condemnation, but from siblings, cousins, even a few old friends. Small connections, carefully built bridges across the gap of dishonor. Kirish responded to each one, slowly rebuilding fragments of the life she had lost. Taeyang watched this with quiet satisfaction, but his own situation was simpler. His family on Earth had never rejected him. His parents came to visit, spending a week playing with their granddaughter and carefully not mentioning the unusual circumstances of her birth. His sister brought toys and told Nari stories. They treated Kirish with cautious warmth, unsure how to approach her, but genuinely trying. Your family is kind, Kirish said after they left. They are just glad I am happy. Are you happy? Taeyang considered the question. I am. Not how I expected to be, and not without complications. But yes, this strange, unplanned life makes me happy. Kirish looked at him, her large eyes thoughtful. I am not there yet. Still too much anger, too much loss. But I think I am moving toward happy. Slowly, that is enough. On Nari's 3rd birthday, they held a small party at the research facility. Human colleagues brought cake. Velrathi researchers gave traditional gifts. Children from other mixed families played together while their parents watched, relief and worry mixing on every face. They were pioneering something new, building families in spaces where the galaxy said families should not exist. Nari ran around the room, her markings bright with excitement, speaking to humans in their language and to Velrathi in theirs. She was completely at ease, unaware that she was supposed to be impossible. Kirish watched her daughter and felt something shift inside her. The last piece of rage, the final ember of anger at Taeyang, at fate, at the universe that had forced this situation upon her. It did not disappear, but it transformed. It became determination. Fire turned to fuel dot. She looked at Taeyang across the room. He was laughing at something another parent had said, his expression open and genuine. She remembered the night at Crosspoint 7, the anger in the medical bay, the terror during the birth. So much pain between them, so many difficult moments. But also growth, change, the building of something neither of them had expected. He caught her looking and smiled. She found herself smiling back, her markings shifting to a warm blue. They were not lovers. Perhaps they never would be. But they were partners in something important, raising a child who represented a new kind of future. A future where species did not stay separate and pure, but mixed and adapted and created something unprecedented. That evening, after the party ended and Nari was asleep, Kirash and Taeyang stood in the observation deck looking at the stars. They stood close but not touching, comfortable in the space between them. Do you think the galaxy will ever truly accept hybrid children? Kirish asked. Eventually. Not in our lifetime, maybe. But Nari's lifetime, or her children's lifetime. Change happens slowly, but it happens. Her children, Kirish repeated. I had not thought that far ahead. Will she want children? Will she even be able to have them? Dr. Hana thinks she will be fertile, able to have children with either humans or Velrathi, or possibly other species. The hybrid genetics seem to maintain the compatibility trait. So more hybrid children, more families like ours, if that is what they choose. Kirish was quiet for a moment, then said something she had been thinking for months, but had not spoken aloud. I am glad she exists, Nari, despite everything, despite all the pain and anger and loss. I am glad she is alive, so am I. But I am still angry at you sometimes. I know. And I probably always will be. At least a little. I understand. She looked at him then. Really looked at him, seeing the man who had accidentally changed her entire life. The man who had stayed when he could have left. The man who played with their daughter every morning and read her stories every night. The man who had turned a terrible mistake into something like partnership. Thank you, she said quietly, for staying, for trying, for being a good father. Thank you, he replied, for giving all of this a chance, for choosing to move forward instead of letting anger destroy everything. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere on the station, their daughter slept, dreaming hybrid dreams. Somewhere in the galaxy, other families struggled with their own impossible situations. Somewhere, the future was being built, one unexpected child at a time. Kirish thought about the rage she had felt in the medical bay, the fury that had consumed her when she learned about the pregnancy. That rage had been real and justified. It had burned hot and fierce. But rage, she had learned, could be transformed. It could become strength, determination, purpose. She had been a decorated Velrathi officer, defined by honor codes and genetic lineages. That version of herself was gone, destroyed by an impossible pregnancy. But in its place, something new had grown. A mother, a pioneer, a woman who chose her own path. She looked down at her hands, at the crystalline patterns on her skin that marked her as Velrathi. But she was also the mother of a hybrid child, which made her something the Velrathi language did not have a word for yet. Something new, something unprecedented. Maybe that was not such a bad thing after all. Nari cried out in her sleep, and both parents moved immediately, heading back to their quarters. They walked side by side, not touching but together, partners in the strange adventure their lives had become. Behind them, the stars continued to shine, indifferent to the small dramas of the species that moved among them. But those small dramas mattered. One child at a time, one family at a time, one difficult choice at a time, the galaxy was changing. And Kirish, who had once raged at the universe for forcing change upon her, now found herself grateful to be part of that change. Her rage had not been wasted. It had been transformed into something stronger, into love for her daughter, into determination to build a better future, into the fierce certainty that what had started in pain could end in purpose. She picked up Nari, soothing her back to sleep, and felt Taeyong's hand on her shoulder. A gesture of support, of partnership, of shared purpose. They had not chosen this path, but they walked it together, and that, Kirish realized, was enough.